This is a video on the BMC TMR, which is the Time Machine Road, the aerodynamic bike from BMC, and the BMC SLR, which is the Team Machine Road, quite similar to the Time Machine Road, Team Machine Road, and is for the professional road cycling teams. This is the bike that they mainly use. So the difference between aerodynamics and lightweight, here it is. You guys can go ahead and destroy that like button at the bottom there and slam a comment down. That'll help the algorithm all that much. Cheers, guys. Hi guys, Richard Murray here, coming in with my first bicycle review, the BMC TMR versus the BMC SLR, both 01 models. So I've been riding BMC for the last 2 seasons, and the first season in 2019, so last year, I rode the BMC TMR, which is the aerodynamic speed bike from the BMC range. I saw it first coming out in the Tour de France in an awesome white color back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, amazing, very aerodynamic bicycle, very stiff, as well as integrated. First start off with the BMC TMR, which is the Time Machine Road TMR, 01 being the flagship model, so that's the top of the range model. You also have the BMC TMR 02 version, which is slightly down from the top tier level, so it'll probably come out with Ultegra or SRAM Force on it. And yeah, so the bike that I'm currently reviewing now is this one that has Dura Ace on, the TMR. And yeah, this bike is extremely quick off the mark. I was riding different bikes in the past, aero road bikes. This one is quite different. The TMR has got especially the handlebars, completely integrated aerodynamic handlebar as well as stem. This is to try and get as most aerodynamic as they can, so it's got a 12-degree negative stem on it. They have different lengths of stem, so you can obviously get your fit accordingly on the stem length as well as width of handlebars. All the cables are internally run through the bicycle, so they're run internally from the shifters through the bar, through the stem, down through the frame and where it needs to go. It's an extremely clean looking bicycle. It is a little bit more plush, so it's not extremely rough. I think a lot of aero road bikes nowadays are a little bit rough, so if you need to ride it year in, year out type of thing through bad weather conditions as well as rough roads, this bike is definitely a little bit softer compared to some of the other aero bikes out there. The handlebars also have got a tiny little bit of give, so there's a little bit of give in the handlebars, which a couple of people were a little bit concerned about. I actually find it great. So for everyday riding, if there are a lot of bumps on the road, the handlebars kind of soak up a little bit of that vibration, which doesn't go through to your body and actually makes it easier to spend 5 or 6 hours in the saddle. Another part of this bike is the integration, which is really cool. Just above the bottom bracket, they've got a box where you can put all your tools and all your tubes and those types of things that you need for a day out. I usually carry one tube in there, CO2 cartridge with the header on it, as well as some spare patches just in case I happen to pick up a few thorns on the ride. A lot of people think this bike looks like an e-bike because looks like it has a motor in the middle. It is not an e-bike. You have to pedal the bike. It's not going to do it for you, unfortunately. But yeah, BMC obviously does have e-bikes if you're looking for something along those lines. Yeah, I think that's more or less about it from the TMR. The geometry is quite, it's quite racy geometry. So I think if you're looking for a bike that's not as racy geometry and you're kind of starting out, I would look towards the SLR versus the TMR. SLR is a little bit easier to get used to compared to the TMR. Season racing on the bike, I did opt for a deeper wheel on the back and a shallower wheel on the front, or slightly shallower wheels, somewhere in the region of 50 millimeters. And this definitely helped the bike accelerate nicely. The BMC TMachine, which is the SLR, more of the climbing version, a bit of a lightweight bike, more of an all-rounder bike, one that you'll be buying if you're in an area that's got a lot of climbing. You want a lighter bike. And yeah, something that will also be aero if you need to get down on the hoods or into the drops, come the flat sections within a season. I haven't unfortunately done any races on the SLR yet, but both of them are equipped with Shimano Dura-Ace top of the line group set, as well as DT Swiss wheels. The one's got a set of arc wheels on the TMR bike currently, and on my SLR I've got a bit of a wider ERC DT Swiss wheel. And this bicycle is extremely light. I'll put that off first. It's got an extremely lightweight frame. The forks are asymmetrical a little bit as well, I noticed. So the right hand side of the fork is actually thicker than the left hand side of the fork. I think that's the first thing I noticed about this bike. So it's definitely reworked SLR completely from the ground up. It's the first disc brake version of the SLR as well. And yeah, I was extremely excited to build one up and to get my leg over it this season. I built this bike up of mine at the end of 2019. So I started riding the first time on the SLR at the end of 2019. So I've had about 6 or 7 odd months on the bike. I haven't done any racing on the bike as of yet, but I have done a hell of a lot of training over it over the last 7 months. With that said, it's a very, very different ride compared to the TMR. I built the two bikes up. There's about 800 grams to a kilogram difference in weight alone between these two bikes. So that's the one massive thing that I noticed, especially on climbing with this bike. On the SLR, it's extremely lightweight. The aerodynamics of it is extremely good as well. So I brought it up to speed as well, and it's about 1 or 2 kilometers an hour at top speed when I'm going my race watts. It's 1 or 2 kilometers an hour difference in speed version between these two bikes, which is a fair amount. But I think it depends on what terrain or where you live as to which one of these two bikes that you would choose. I built the bike up. It's also built up with Shimano Dura-Ace, which I'm a big fan. Over the last few seasons I've been riding in Shimano and really enjoying it. This bike is also built up with shallower wheels as well, so it's more aimed at climbing and accelerating. In our courses of ITU, I'll be able to choose between these two bikes, which I'm quite fortunate with from BMC. So if it's a course that's got a lot of straightaways and a little bit less corners, I'll then opt for the TMR. But now this feels to me a tiny bit stiffer than the TMR, so it accelerates extremely nicely and is very stiff in the handlebars, in the stem, and in the fork in the front. And with the shallower wheels, it definitely accelerates and picks up speed very quickly. A lot of things to do with this bike are a little bit more simpler compared to the TMR. And yeah, I think overall I really, really enjoyed the SLR thus far. It's easy to take apart as well. So for traveling, it's slightly easier to take apart than the TMR is. There's a little bit less parts going on the bike. And yeah, it's the cables also run internally, so they also run. They don't run in through the handlebar. So on the TMR, the cables actually run through the handlebar. On the SLR, they actually run on the outside of the handlebar. So there's actually grooves made into the bar, and so the cables run along the bar. They run in through the stem. There's a little bit of a cap that holds the hydraulic cables under the stem, which is great. So it's easier to take apart or work on if you need to. It doesn't take all day to take your stem apart, which a lot of integrated bikes nowadays do. So yeah, it's pretty easy to take apart. As I've said, extremely lightweight. And yeah, I think it depends on what type of riding that you do and what type of racing that you do, whether you'll choose the TMR. So if you're somebody that sits on the front of the bunch a lot and is really in the headwind a lot of the time, I would then opt for the TMR for you, because this bike on aerodynamics, if you're a top athlete or even if somebody who spends a lot of time, maybe even doing triathlons, I would opt the TMR bicycle for you. It's definitely a tiny bit heavier, but when it comes to speed and when it comes to racing, this is the racing bike. The SLR, a lot of professional road cyclists are riding on the SLR, and I think this bike, lightweight, the professional athletes, lightweight is a massive thing. They ride in a bunch a lot of the time. They do spend a little bit of time on the front, but if you're somebody that lives in a hilly area and is looking for a bike that accelerates really well, I would then go for the SLR, just because it's a lighter bike. The integration is a little bit simpler, and I think with a light set of wheels on, a shallower set of wheels on, this bike is perfect for everyday riding as well as racing. I think if you wanted to get a little bit more aero on the SLR, what you could do is you could throw an aero handlebar on there with a slightly deeper section set of wheels, and that would probably give it the aerodynamics direction of the TMR. So I hope you guys like this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you guys can, and turn on the notifications if you guys want to see further videos about bicycles, running shoes, triathlon, a lot of other things coming at you guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video on the BMC TMR versus the BMC SLR for 2020. Cheers.